All right, boys, we have Anduin here. It's a three-phase fight. A lot of the mechanics are up front in phase one, and they just transition over to phase two, phase three. There is some minor differences between them, some mechanics being added and some being removed. So, just to start it off, I'll talk about some of the mechanics. Domination Word Pain, it's a damage over time that gets applied to random players. Just has to be healed through it. Dark Zeal is the tank swap mechanic here. The more he attacks tank number one, the faster he attacks. Once he taunt swaps tank number two, then his stacks are reset. So, taunt swap. Now, I would also like to talk a little bit about positioning. I guess that's probably pretty important here. So, the way that I have it envisioned is, we, as a raid group, we might not be here. We could be here or here or here or whatever. But I think this is the general purpose of what I would like it to be at. What this allows is that, once again, boss is turned away from everyone else, so that way their attacks don't get parried or anything like that. And two, it leaves this nice little area, these kind of cone-like areas here, for other mechanics, such as Dark Star, which is just or Wicked Star, I guess, sorry, which is just the priest's divining star, where it bounces outwards and then comes back. So just boomerangs. People are going to get targeted, they're going to get an arrow on them, and they have a few seconds to get into this kind of a zone, and then it'll lock onto them, fire, in which case the DPS or healer or whoever gets targeted can come back into the group while this arrow just kind of boomerangs in and out. That's how we're going to deal with that. And like I said, we could be over here or over here or over here, but the plan is to always leave these sides open, so that way if there's a mechanic that requires taking care of that, then we could do it real easily. There is also Befouled Barrier, which is a Death Knight's anti-magic zone. So instead of like absorbing magic damage, it absorbs healing, 75% of the healing done. So let's have this little circle represent that. It's going to be here. Everyone is going to go ahead and come inside of here, and then depending on how much damage output's going on, now would be a pretty good time to use any damage reductions or like a Spirit Link totem, since you're only getting 25% of actual healing. Once a certain amount of healing is done to everyone within this barrier, it'll continually shrink and continually shrink, and then if there's any shield left, if there's any barrier left that wasn't healed, then it's going to apply that as a healing absorption effect onto everyone in the raid. So Befouled Barrier comes out, everyone stacks in here, heals, cooldowns, defensives, and then we take care of it. And that's done. One of the tricky things that I think will get us is going to be Blasphemy. So there's going to be players that will be marked with a light and a dark circle. Player A will get light, player B will get dark, right? This lasts for 6 seconds. If you come into contact with a player with the same color, so if two lights touch, then they just die and take anyone with them, right? So this guy and this guy, right? This guy has, I'll represent, no I won't, I'll represent, cool. Yeah, so this ranged has light and this ranged has dark. They come into contact with each other and their bombs disappear and they're free, but they only have 6 seconds to do this. And not only do they have 6 seconds, but these two guys have 6 seconds. These guys have 6 seconds. Every one of these players has 6 seconds to try and get these taken care of before it explodes. So in trying to think of an efficient way to take care of this quickly is probably just to have I think when it's getting cast, we should already be relatively lightly stacked behind Anduin, and then have one group not move while the other does. So if we call out for light group to stay, or it'll probably be predetermined before we even pull the boss, right? So we'll say light group doesn't move at all. But if you have a dark circle, then the person who has dark circle will go ahead and find his light circle counterpart. That way, there's not too much confusion. We don't have two players trying to go for two different targets. We just have one person going for that target. That's one of the best ways I could think of to try and deal with that, given the time frame for that mechanic. Let's see here. There's also, yes, Hope Breaker. It's a raid-wide damage. Yeah, it just deals raid-wide damage until Anduin reaches 100 willpower. Real quick, I'll say that willpower increases the damage you deal, reduces the damage you take, and the Banished Realm is how you get the willpower buffs. So, Hope Breaker is just something that we have to deal with as healers. Now, to get into the Banished Realm, Anduin will cast Kingsmorn Hungers. This is a frontal cone. That half of the raid group will stack inside of. So that way, they get to the Banished Realm. It's going to be a half and half, because once you get into the Banished Realm, you'll get a debuff saying that if you go into the Banished Realm again, well, then you'll just instantly die. There are adds inside of this Banished Realm that will have to be taken care of. There's the Anduin's Despair. It's a huge, it's the biggest one there and can actually hurt people. So the tank has to pick that one up. It's going to send out swirls onto the ground. It's going to reduce the damage and healing that anyone who's hit by it by 50%. So, you know, don't get hit by the swirls. Anduin's Hope is the healer one that they have to worry about. On Heroic, there's a debuff preventing it from being healed, but it also is slowed while it has that debuff on it. So, actually, is there a, nope, only a boss room thing. So, let me see if I could put down some people over here. So there are going to be these little hope guys, right? And they're going to walk from the center towards the edge. If they reach the edge, then, you know, we lost them and we're not going to get them back. That's willpower that we cannot get any longer. And on the same token, there are going to be adds scattered around the room on the outer edge going in. These are going to be smaller adds that we could DPS down and kill in order to get, you know, willpower again. You could CC them, you could grip them, you could do whatever. Just make sure that they don't reach the center, otherwise they will disappear and we don't get willpower. Yeah, that's that. So we should have obviously two groups dedicated beforehand. You know, groups odd and groups even. You know, odds go down first, evens go down second. Make sure that each group has enough CC in order to help take care of those adds if they need to. Ideally, also, maybe like a priest in each group if there's at least two, so that way when we go down, they could just mass a spell right off the rip and get all four of those adds, so that way we're not wasting global cooldowns on that. That would be ideal. So that will happen. We come back up here, and then the second group will go down. No, I think I flummoxed that one up, did I? No, I think I'm right. The second group will go down after, you know, a whole nother round of phase 1 mechanics, and then we get a transition period. During the transition, I have I think it would be best to use Bloodlust during one of these two intermissions. The reason being is because Arthas is going to pop out. Anduin's just going to sit still. He's not going to do anything. We can't touch him. We can't really damage him. Arthas is going to pop out of his soul or whatever and start summoning an army of the dead. We're probably going to be lightly spread around Arthas. Cleave him down. Cleave down the multiple ads, the army of the dead that come out. And then just try and focus them. On Heroic, there is a Monstrous Soul. It's going to passively lose health every second. Once it reaches 30% health, we're going to need to hard swap to it. Because otherwise it's going to cast Necrotic Detonation. And if that goes off, then it's essentially going to be a wipe. It's going to prevent healing, all healing, raid-wide, for 10 seconds. So just keep your eyes out for that. If someone calls to hard swap the Monstrous Soul, then hard swap to Monstrous Soul. There's going to be a ramping damage over time that lasts. Remorseless Winter, you know. Soul Reaper, it's just a taunt swap mechanic. So once tank A gets Soul Reaper, tank B just taunts. If we don't have enough willpower in this phase, then it's going to be a wipe. Because not only do we get like the 200% increased damage, which is why it is a good time to use Bloodlust here, because any of the damage that Arthas takes, Anduin shares. So you're double dipping into Anduin. But willpower also gives us 90% damage reduction. And I don't know if you guys have read the damage journal, but at first I was really confused because I saw like abilities like Remorseless Winter. It's like, yeah, it starts out dealing 14,000 damage every second. That increases over time. And then I was like, wow, that's kind of really fucking shitty. I'm not sure how we're going to deal with that. Why is that not labeled as deadly? Well, that's right. It's because we have a 90% damage reduction, ideally, going into that phase. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that's really important for you guys to know, but it just puts more emphasis on we need those banished realms to be ideal. We only have 30 seconds into the banished realm before we go back up. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting sidetracked. Phase 2. What Phase 2 is going to be is, instead of the Blasphemy, the light and dark circles going out, it's going to start casting Anduin's going to start casting Grim Reflections. This is mirror images of Anduin, and again, there is actually, when I think about it, an extreme amount of emphasis on crowd control and interrupt effects during this fight. So now the DPS have something to do other than just mow the boss down. You know, hunters with freezing trap, or I don't know, monks with their paralyzing touch, I'm pretty sure. Anything that could, you know, polymorph, these kinds of effects is what's needed here. We're probably going to go anywhere between left to right or right to left. We want to make a one smooth motion. So we'll move Anduin with us, and say we move here. These 4 ads are going to be hard CC'd, so that way they can't cast. And then we're going to have an interrupt group. An interrupt group is going to make sure that this guy doesn't get off of fear. Because if he does, then it's going to be a raid-wide 8-second fear. I also believe it deals damage to you over that time. So that's just, like, that's a wipe. You know? Maybe a Tremor Totem might save us there, but otherwise, it's just a wipe. During all this, there is still the Divine Stars, or the Necrotic Stars, whatever you want to call them, that shoot out. And on Heroic, they heal and give immunity to being silenced. So again, if this player comes over here, you know, he is doing his due diligence, and he is taking the Divine Star out of the raid group. Well, it just so happens that it lines up with this Grim Reflection that we had already CC'd. So not only is this guy getting healed, if he's taken any damage thus far, but he also is going to be immune to CC and start chain casting the Fear, which leads to a wipe. So that's something that while we go from reflection to reflection, we have to make sure to keep in mind. And it's going to get easier as we clear them out, because once we clear this one out, well, then now we have this open space. We clear this one out, now we have half of the room. We clear this one out, now we have, you know, you see where I'm going with this, with the Grim Reflections. So that's something that we have to make sure that we're being careful of with positioning on the Divine Stars with the Grim Reflections. Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. And then we'll do 2 more Banished Realm groups, and then we'll do a transition again where Arthas comes out. We are going to want to position ourselves on the edges of this platform, because he does the same thing except for 2 things. But ideally, with this positioning and our damage, we won't have to worry about it. If there are any Grim Reflections left, they'll get increased health and immunity to interrupt and crowd control effects. And then there's going to be March to the Dam. There's just going to be a group of, you know, I'll put the warrior icon. Why not? It's going to be a group of undead soldiers lined up. They're going to go from here to here, or maybe here to here. You know, it's like that Mogashan Palace boss. I think it was like the Spirit Kings is what they were called, where they would just send a line of warlords down a path until they reach the end. If you get hit by it, you get stunned, you take damage. It's essentially going to kill you unless you have some sort of immunity. Anyway, after Arthas, actually I wonder if this might be the proper time to use Bloodlust. I don't know, because there's more that you have to worry about. I don't know. I still think I'll have to talk to Toddy about that one, but the plan is to use Bloodlust during one of the 2 of those. After the Arthas is dead there, Anduin comes back, and I think there is still 2 mechanics that he does here. The Wicked Star, where we're bouncing out of the group, and the Dark Zeal tank mechanics. The thing that is fucky here is the hopelessness. Almost similar to the phase 1 hopelessness. Everyone is going to get struck with a 30-second bomb on them. We're probably going to have, depending on the size of the group, 2 to 4 players go into the bubble at the same time. What this is going to do is 2 things. One, it's going to remove the damage over time debuff on you. If that debuff expires after 20 seconds, it's going to be a raid wipe. Or just kill you, assuming that other people aren't near you or have immunities or have already taken care of it, you know? So after 25 seconds, if you still have it on you, then you die and take anyone around you with you. This beacon of hope in the middle is how you get rid of it. Like I said, you come in here, it applies a raid-wide damage over time that stacks for 3 seconds to all players. So we don't have a lot of time to worry about this. So that's why I'm saying if we have like 30 players, then we'll probably just send 4 people in at a time. We should have enough healers to where we could stagger our cooldowns and make sure that we're still healthy going into the next run in, then the next 4 going. But you know, if we have like maybe 25, then we could do 3. If we have 20, then maybe we could do 2. But, or we could probably still do 3 if it's 20. But we just need to make sure that everyone gets clear to this. Every time someone clears their dot, this gets smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually it can't be used anymore. So, in a sense, that's like a soft enrage. And then Anduin's also going to cast Empowered Hopebreaker, which is the same Hopebreaker that he casted in Phase 1, except it's stronger and does more damage. So this is a bit of a Zerg phase, and again, you would think that this might be like the time to use Bloodlust, but I think that's incorrect, because the less health he has going into this phase, then the less time we're going to have to worry about the mechanics here. Like I said, the damage buff that we get from Willpower is going to be instrumental in making Phase 3 as smooth as possible. Anyway, I think that's it. I think that's all I got for you. I hope I explained things well enough to where things weren't super shitty. One thing that I just want to reiterate again is that we want to be stacked behind Anduin, so that way we can leave the sides for various mechanics. With, yeah, throughout all the phases, because Wicked Star is present throughout all of them. Alright, no, that's it, guys. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video.